What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ty, behind the camera from Ty Drives, and this is the 2022 Audi Q8 Prestige, and it's pretty loaded up. Not fully loaded, but pretty loaded up. So we have a really nice spec'd out car for you to take a look at today. Now, throughout this video, we're going to be taking a look at the exterior, showing you all of the features. We'll then pop the hood, see what powers this vehicle. Then we're going to take a look at the cargo area. We'll see what is happening back there. And then we'll move forward to the rear seats and finally the front seats. So we'll see what's all of the features in all of those segments of the video. Now, before we get started with the features of this vehicle, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Valenti Audi for allowing me access to this vehicle to film for you. But to start off, let's take a look at the headlamps. Now, in the Prestige, they get some pretty special bulbs in the fact that they are full LED up front, and they also are matrix LED headlamps with the dynamic turn signals. You know, everything is all LED up front, as you can see. Look very cool when illuminated. And you also have the headlamp washers up front too. We have parking sensors that span the front bumper, and we also have the front view camera, which is one of 4 cameras around the vehicle. Really neat camera system on this car, so definitely get a look at that once we get into the interior. Pretty long but sloping hood with some pretty cool creases in the center, and part of the Black Optic Plus package are these beautiful 22-inch wheels. They're wrapped around 285/40 tires, so pretty large wide tires as well, and equally as large brake calipers painted in red. Very nice contrast to the black paint on this car. Black optic elements include the surrounds on the windows as well as the roof rails. You also get some more blacking out elements on the front grille and also the rear fascia as well. Taking a look at the mirrors, we have the blind spot warning as well as the turn signal indications. They also do power fold and are heated. You also get the smart key entry on all 4 of the door handles. Just press the little button right over here and the door will lock. Put your hand behind the handle and it'll unlock. Really cool element about the Q8 is that we have frameless glass. So once you open up the doors, there's no frame around the windows, so that's pretty neat. Pretty large spoiler back here with the extensions. You can also see the antenna and panoramic sunroof up top. Very neat light bar back here that continues all the way across. Take a look at that. Also have full LED headlamps back here with the dynamic turn signals. And part of the Prestige model, which is really neat, is when you unlock the car, you get this really pretty cool animation with the rear tail lamps. So that's pretty neat. We have our exhaust tips that are tucked underneath the vehicle, and we also have some more blacked out accenting back here with your rear parking sensors and your rear view camera with a trunk release. Very attractive looking SUV, if you ask me. What do you guys think in the comments of the exterior design? Let me know. So, taking a quick glance under the hood of the Q8, we have one single power option unless you spring for the SQ8 or RSQ8, and we'll save those for separate videos, I think. However, under the hood of the Q8 is a 3-liter turbocharged V6. Produces some pretty good power figures, 335 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. And of course, it is a mild hybrid setup, so there's a very small electric motor within the exterior of the engine that works as a starter generator. So it kind of aids in the stop-start technology, which is pretty neat. But pretty tidy up here. Very large engine cover. But very interesting to me, when you lift up the engine cover, the air filter is right on top, so that's pretty neat. And you can kind of see the valve covers on the side. But very smooth powertrain on this vehicle. It is hooked up to the permanent all-wheel drive quattro system, as well as an 8-speed automatic. So, of course, the Q8 does come standard with a full powered tailgate. And once we get under the cargo area here, take a look at how much room there is. There's quite a lot of room from this very nice stainless steel plate to the rear seats. And in case you wanted even more room, you can fold down the rear seats a 40-20-40 split, so you can actually have a ski hatch if you desire to do so. But again, very roomy back here as well. A couple of different things we have to talk about back here. So it comes with the crossbars, the all-weather floor mats, and you also have some extra pocket extensions to either side. Some grocery bag hangers next to the buttons to raise and lower the rear air suspension. So if you have a heavy object you don't want to lift too far, you just press this button right here. It'll actually lower the suspension a couple inches, so you have to lift your object so high. We have LED lighting to either side, as well as a cargo cover. And if you lift up the cargo floor, there is a spare tire under there. We have a couple of buttons up at the top, one to close the trunk and lock the vehicle, and one to just close the trunk. So before we hop into the back seats, there's one item I'd like to mention. And this vehicle comes with soft closed doors for all 4 of them. So that is a pretty neat feature, and you really don't see that a lot with vehicles that have the before mentioned frameless glass. So you can see the frame of the vehicle doesn't come with the door when you open it, and that gives it a pretty neat appearance if you ask me. Very beautiful beige colored interior, and this has the luxury package. So we have the extra nice seats and extended leather everywhere. So very, very nicely optioned out vehicle. We have leather upper door panels, this beautiful beige color for the main color on this vehicle, and soft touch materials down below. We have the 17 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. In case that's not enough, a 23 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system is available for an extra $5,000. Some pretty nice looking dark wood accents. You even have a little, I don't know if you could say that this is an ashtray, I'm not quite sure, but you can actually throw little things in there like a garbage pail and remove it if you'd like. You also have a bottle holder and 2 window controls back here, and this also has power sunshades for the rear. And no matter what seat you're in, you can control both of the windows and shades back here, so that's a pretty neat feature. You see we have this beautiful light colored Alcantara headliner. Very, very nice and luxurious for sure. But take a look at these seats. Unbelievably soft leather where it's not perforated, but where it is perforated is equally as soft, but it just has the perforations in it to let the air flow a little bit better through the seats, not make them so hot or so cool in the wintertime. But you can fold them down with this little lever right here, and they will lock into place once they're folded down. And the ski hatch can be folded down from this button right up top. One more thing we can fold down back here is the rear armrest, and as you can see, it still has some shipping information in it and some cup holders. Hopping into the rear, this being a pretty large SUV, we have quite a bit of legroom back here. Now I'm about 5'10", and I adjusted the front seat to a pretty normal driving position for myself. Take a look at how much legroom I have back here. This is pretty impressive. Down here we have a very nice sort of haptic touch climate control, so it's 2 zones for the rear and 2 zones in the front, making it a 4-zone climate control. So you can kind of adjust the temperatures like so, and the fan speed, and where you want the air to come out. That's pretty neat. And we also have the heated rear seats back here. A couple of USB-C and a 12-volt power outlet, and a pretty relatively flat floor back here. So if you had to put a third passenger back here, they have no problem with legroom back here. A couple of other things worth mentioning. This is sort of one of the more sloping roof style SUVs, and usually with that you lose a lot of visibility and trunk space, but not so much in this vehicle. We have a couple of LED lights back here, grab handles and coat hooks. Very nice place to be back here in the Q8. And despite the fact of the frameless doors, the doors have a really good sound to them when you close them. So, looking at the driver's door panel, I went ahead and shut off the vehicle so you kind of get a good look of what the interior looks like with all of the screens and lights and things off. So I think that's pretty cool. But same materials as out back. However, you have 2-person memory seats for both the front, the driver and the front passenger, which is pretty nice. You don't see that too often. And you also have powered and individual child locks for the rear. So we have all the mirror adjustments for the heating and the folding. We have a trunk release, a couple of a pretty large speaker on the driver's door, and a pocket. And we also have the nice stainless S badge tray right there. To the left of the dash, we have all of our lighting controls. A little storage pocket in here, which you can see is all felt lined. We also have the hood release and the pedals over there. Very, very comfortable seats, and there's quite a lot of seat controls that are found in the infotainment system. So once you press this button right here, it'll kind of pull up all of your extra adjustments and massage for the seats. So we'll definitely make sure we dive into that within the infotainment. But otherwise, we have all of your main seat controls and the 4-way lumbar as well. So here's the key fob for the vehicle. Pretty nice slender Audi key. Have the lock, unlock, trunk release, and the panic alarm on the back, as well as a little button here to slide out the physical key from the bottom. But pretty simplistic key fob there, pretty nice. And take a look at how beautiful and streamlined this interior looks when the main screen is off. It kind of just looks like one panel, so that's pretty neat. Just push the start right over here, and once you start, the tilt telescoping steering wheel comes into your last memory settings, so that's pretty neat. Now, taking a look at this steering wheel, it is completely leather wrapped, and you have the likewise colored stitching on the inside, and a couple of controls here as well. All of these for the virtual cockpit, and all of these sort of media controls, such as your Bluetooth telephone, voice commands, and the skipping and volume for the radio. And we also have a programmable button, so you can go within the infotainment and pick between a few different things that you would like this button to do, so that's pretty neat. On the back of the steering wheel, you have some paddle shifters. And you also have a couple of stalks behind the steering wheel, one for your turn signals and automatic high beams. Then you can also shut on and off the lane keep assist with the N button right over here. You can see that little icon pop up in the gauge cluster screen, as well as the heads-up display, so that's pretty neat. And to the other side, we have the front and rear wipers. Now, as far as the gauge screen goes, it's kind of like your default setup here, and we can kind of use these buttons again to configure what that screen has to offer. So we'll go through a few different menus here. We could press the view button at any time and kind of get more information from the center, and we kind of have a few different things to go through here down at the side, so we can kind of see the lane keep assist and all of your different driver's assistance, things like that. And we can also scroll over to see our radio functionality, telephone, and the famed virtual cockpit full map view, which is pretty neat there. And again, at any time you can press the view button to get different informations, or I should say extra information within the gauge cluster screen. I'm going to leave this up for the driving portion of the video so that you could see what the lane keep assist does. Taking a look at the upper dash, we have very nice leather up here. It continues all the way down the dashboard. As you can see, very nice heads-up display. Hopefully you can see that on our test drive. And that brings me down to the main sort of MMI screen. So this would kind of be what I would leave it on as a home screen. It gives you a kind of a combination of what the radio is doing, what your phone is doing, and what the navigation is doing. So that's pretty neat. If you scroll over, you have all of the different apps, so to say. You can also swipe from the top, get your audio settings and different user settings, things like that. And you also have shortcuts to either side. So we'll go through a couple of the sort of main screens that you'd be using every so often. We have all of our different audio sources, the media for your phone, telephone screen itself, and the navigation. And you could input your destination right up here. Going back to home, we can see we have the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and once that's hooked up, that'll change to a sort of, you just tap on that and it'll bring you to that. Right here we have all of the vehicle information. We have a couple of pretty good selection of drive modes, so as you can see there. And you also have individual, which you can customize a few different things. And you can also manually raise or lower the air suspension on this vehicle, which is pretty neat. Couple of different things within the vehicle screen right here, and at this point we can kind of go over what the seats do. So if you press either that button in the screen or the central button in the middle of the lumbar controls on the seat, we can see that there's a bunch more seat adjustments. So you can see you can hug and loosen in the rear of the backrest, and as well as the sort of bottom of the seat too. And you also have extra thigh support on for the lower cushion as well, which is pretty cool. You can also activate the massage, so we have a bunch of different configurations for massage, as well as different intensity levels. We have a seat temperature balance, so we kind of can control if you want more heating on the backrest or more or less on the lower part of the seat, and you can do the same with the air conditioning seats. Then we also have a few different other things to go along with the driver's seat. You can kind of press this button over here to start controlling the passenger seat, so that's pretty neat. We have all of the vehicle settings, so general settings, sound settings, brightness of the displays, and the gauge dimmer. But yeah, that pretty much does it for the screen in here. Don't want to take up too much of your time explaining this screen because it's you can really get into depth and spend a lot of time with it. But I'm not here to do that, just to give you the basic overlay. Now the lower screen is mainly for climate controls. Now this is the way you should do it if you want to put climate controls into a screen. Make it a devoted screen, not sort of one where you have to tap this and then start adjusting your temperatures and things like that. You know, you want to see everything laid out right in front of you without any extra steps. So we have temperature to either side, fan speed in the middle, and where you want the air to come out, so next to. A couple of different controls up top for the auto start stop. We can turn that feature on and off. Sort of a hill descent control, and you can also access your garage door openers through there. You can turn off the upper screen and also turn off the heads-up display. Just a couple of controls up there. Then some more down below to control the heated and cooled seats and different various things like recirculating the air and things like that. We also have a more options button to bring up your heated steering wheel and some other things to control the rear climate and various things like that. Right below on sort of a haptic sort of panel right here, we have the quick drive mode select, as well as your hazards and the defrosters. The engine start stop button, sort of a parking camera where you can bring up all of the different camera views. Lots and lots of different camera views on this vehicle. So we kind of have a wide angle front, a normal front view, top down view, rear view, a wide angle rear view, the front and rear wheels. And you can also press this 3D button here to get a 3D image of the vehicle. You can kind of all the way around the vehicle to see if there's any curbs near you. You might curb your wheels, or anything that you're really getting close to that you don't want to hit. So really neat camera system on this vehicle too. We can also press this button next to it to pull up all of the driver's assistance functions, and we could customize that to exactly how you'd like. So that's kind of all the assistance functions this vehicle has. And an audio volume button right over here, and you can kind of move it back and forth for the skipping for the different tracks. This brings me down to the gear selector. Very nice use. Here again, 8-speed torque converter transmission for this vehicle. You can go straight down into drive once you're down there. You can actually have a couple of different sort of sporty options. You can either put the gear selector down once more and it'll put the transmission into a sport mode, kind of hold gears, or you can also move it over into a sort of fuller manual mode where you can shift down here or on the paddle shifters. All the way up puts you into reverse. That activates your parking sensors and cameras. And then P, of course, is for park. Also have the electronic parking brake, a couple of cup holders on the smaller side, and then a 12-volt power outlet. Have a nice armrest over here covered in leather. You can also move it back and forth with the little sort of handle on the top. And we also have a little bit of storage in there with a wireless charging pad and 2 USB-C inlets. Taking a look at the passenger area, nice Quattro emblem with a little bit of wood, gloss black, and a pretty good amount of space in the glove box. It's also lockable. I have an auto-dimming rear view mirror and a couple of controls up here, such as for your lighting, which is all sort of tap sensitive. More lighting controls, SOS, and sort of maintenance buttons, and 2 separate controls for the sunshade and sunroof. So we have this one for the sunshade. I'll kind of show you what that looks like when the sunshade is completely open. So kind of a front and rear section, and this section will either vent or slide depending on how you press the button over here. Just one more thing I'd like to point out is the visors, and they even went to the extent to put the visors in the Alcantara material, which is very nice. And you also have the mirror card holder and a grab handle. So that pretty much does it for the features on this vehicle. Let's get it out on the road and see how it drives. Alright, so driving the 2022 Audi Q8. Now, I have driven a couple of these in the past, and what a pleasure to drive this vehicle. It really, really is. Even with the 22-inch wheels, it's still a supremely comfortable vehicle. Now, throughout this test drive, we're kind of just going to start off in the comfort mode. Take it around to this sort of dead end here, test out the turning circle. Then we'll get it out onto sort of a main road, hopefully get it up to about 45, 50 miles an hour. See what it's like at that speed. And then we'll turn on to a back road, which we'll put it into dynamic mode for a little bit, test out the acceleration and see what it's like to put around the corner. Not gonna go anything crazy because the roads are still sandy and wet. So we're not gonna push it to its limits, obviously. But we'll get a good feel for how the suspension handles bumps, corners, and things like that. So one thing I have to say about the turning circle is it's pretty good as it is, but Audi actually offers as a standalone option is 4-wheel steering, which greatly improves the turning circle of this vehicle. That is one thing I do have to say maybe is worth the extra, I believe, $1,500 that they charge for that option, especially if you live in sort of a city setting. So while we're waiting for traffic here, once we get it onto this road here, it's got some pretty good lanes that the vehicle should be able to track. And at that point, we'll kind of turn on the lane keeping assist. It's active at the moment. And once it starts picking up the lanes, then it'll turn green. So wait just a second. And let's see here. And the lanes will light up green as such, and the distance indicator is also on. So the way the system works is, I'll show you. If you just start sort of veering out of your lane, the lane will turn red and it'll gently steer you back into your lane. It's not a jerky or intrusive system whatsoever. It's just a sort of gentle reminder, hey, you're out of your lane. Let me fix that for you. For the remainder of the video, we're going to turn that off. But it is a very helpful and sort of non-intrusive system, like I said before. Now that we're up at about 45-50 miles an hour, it's supremely comfortable, and surprisingly, with these 22-inch wheels, the ride is not jarring. It's just a very, very smooth suspension, especially in the comfort mode. And again, this does have an adaptive ride air suspension as well. So at this point, we'll put it into the dynamic mode. As you can see, the little S pops up on the gauge cluster there, and we'll get it up to about 25 miles an hour. Just kind of let the transmission do its thing and punch it. So, pretty brisk acceleration, and this of course is the more basic engine that you get on the Q8. You know, you can also step it up to the SQ8, which has the 4-liter twin turbo V8 with 500 horsepower, or there's the RSQ8 with even more power. So if this 335 horsepower isn't enough for you, there's definitely more options. But I would say that you know, maybe 335 horsepower. An SUV like this doesn't sound like that much, but trust me, it is enough for this vehicle. And it definitely has plenty of torque, 369 pounds-feet, so that's pretty good. Definitely a pretty quick transmission to upshift too. As you saw, you know, you can kind of hear the hear my foot hit the accelerator, and as soon as that happened, it switched to the highest or the lowest gear possible, and it kind of just took off. So pretty impressive acceleration. Also, the steering in these vehicles, that's one more thing I'd like to point out. For some reason, the steering in the Q7s and Q8s have such a great weight to them, especially when you put them in the dynamic mode. So very nice weight to the steering, and it does definitely stiffen up a bit once you put it into dynamic. Now the rattling you hear back there is due to the roof racks, so that's nothing to do with the car itself rattling or anything. Also, another thing is it's extremely quiet in here. Now, usually when you have cars with frameless doors, there's a little bit more noise intrusion, but not so with this vehicle. It's very quiet, both from a wind noise perspective and a tire noise perspective. Just very, very quiet. Again, not going to go too crazy with these corners since these roads are very slippery with the sand, and it's very moist from the rain we had last night. But pretty good feel for these for the handling on this vehicle. Very pretty good for this class, I have to say. Now this is more sort of the most bumpiest section of the test drive, and I'm laughing because it's just soaking up the bumps unbelievably. just such a comfortable ride. There's no jarring or extra noise coming from the suspension on these bigger bumps here. It's just a very relaxing car to drive. I could definitely see myself listening to some jazz music, kind of just wafting along on the backcountry roads of New England in this vehicle. Sometimes if you have an air suspension system, the car gets kind of floaty. Not so much in this vehicle. It sort of wafts over the bumps without being floaty. Another thing I'd like to mention is these seats, extremely customizable in the adjustments, and that makes it an overall very comfortable seat to be in for a longer journey, since you can really fine-tune how these seats hold you in. That accompanied with the massage, which I'm not quite sure why I don't have that going at the moment, just makes for a very pleasurable driving experience with this vehicle. I think one of the more comfortable driving Audis is this one. I have to say the A8 and the wagons, the all-road wagons, are unusually can't say that word, comfortable. For some reason the wagons are just extremely comfortable on the suspension side, but so is this. So with all of that being said, I think you have a pretty good outlook on what the Q8 is all about. And if you definitely, I would suggest to you guys, with spending, you know, $92,000, which this car is on a vehicle, you know, watching a video about it gets you a really good idea of what the car is like. However, it's always good to go down to your local dealership if they have one on a lot. Definitely take it out for a nice ride and get accustomed to the vehicle and kind of set it up the way you like. And if you like it overall, you know, this will be the car for you. And I have no doubt in my mind that for most clients, that this car will please them. It is a really great car. Plenty of space in here, lots of technology, lots of comfort. And with that being said, I hope you have enjoyed the 2022 Audi Q8 just as much as I have, and I also hope you stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos just like this one.